Let's take a look at the different types of Power BI storage modes, and also we will take a look at when to use which mode in today's session. There are four types of connecting modes are there in Power BI. One is the import, other one is direct, and the next one is composite, and the other one is live. Now let us start with the import mode. The import mode is the widely used, and it is the default one when we connect to most data sources. I just go to Power BI, look here. So here, when we import any file, for example, I'm going to import the Excel file, something like that. Okay, I just go and import this one. I just want to load this Excel file into my Power BI desktop. For example, I just say, okay, sorry, let me just, I just do it one more time. See, to load any file, first of all, let's say you opened a Power BI desktop, and if you want to import any file, you need to click on the get data icon, and just beneath this get data icon you can find, when you click on it, you will find a lot of options, right? To open different types of files, you have different connectors are available. For example, I'm going to open an Excel file. I just click on this data source, and next one is, I just say, I just open some file, cust.xls file, customer file. When I open it, it simply asks, it simply load the file and import it. So the default mode is the import here. When I click on load, it will get loaded. So for example, I just load it. I just click on the load button. It's an Excel file. It will take for a while, and you can see apply changes, discard changes. So it is creating a connection with that file, and then it loads this Excel file into my Power BI desktop. Instead of saying Power BI desktop, the customer file, cust.xls file, look here. Now we can see where is the cust.xls file? Yeah, this is the one, right? So now it is not in the proper name, so we need to rename it with some meaningful name. So how do you rename it? Just if you hover the cursor here on top of the recently loaded Excel file, on the right side you will find three dots. This is called your ellipse. This is called your ellipses. This is called your ellipses. When you just click on this once, and you will have a lot of options here. I need to rename this with some meaningful name, customer. That's all. So by default, it is an import mode. So in the case of import mode, Power BI, it pulls the data from this data source and load the data inside of the Power BI itself. Hence, the data sits inside of the Power BI desktop file. Okay, now I just click on this home ribbon. Let us load some SQL Server table here. This is a different source. SQL Server falls under the RDBMS, Relational Database Management System. Here you need to specify the, one second, I just give some, so you will find the server name here. This is what your SQL Server name. If you want to connect to SQL Server, click on the get data and find out where the SQL Server is there. It is there here. You just click on it. Next step is you just paste this SQL Server name here. So this is your SQL Server name, and SQL Express is something like your username or something like that for the SQL Server. Here you can specify the database. If you know the database name, you can specify the database name. In general, in the real-time scenario, the customer will give you the database name. They will give you the server name and the database name. In real-time scenario, you'll be working on Azure SQL Server. Okay, Azure is a cloud, Microsoft's cloud. Instead of having the SQL Server locally in our database, the SQL Server is available on the Azure cloud. Okay, the database sits on the Azure cloud there. Okay, in that case we don't have to install any SQL Server. All you need to do is you get the access details, the server name and the database name. For example, in my case, I wanted to open the sales database in this SQL Server, and this is the database I wanted to connect it. Okay, so here you can see two modes here, import and direct query. The import is the default mode, right? It's the default connection mode. Okay, the import is also called as or referred to as cached data. So when I click on import, what will happen is, in the sales database, whatever the tables are there, it will list it out. It will display all the tables that are available as part of the sales database. When I click on this icon here, it will expand and show all the tables that are part of the sales database. So I just want to import the DIM product. I click on load here. So I loaded, so from the SQL Server, I have chosen the, I have chosen the product table. It is establishing the connection with the table, and then it is being imported it got connected in the import mode, right? The default mode I have used import. I did not use the direct connection. We'll discuss about the direct query mode little later. The import mode, look here, I went by the default connectivity mode, the import, and then I imported the product table. Look here, the product table got loaded into my Power BI desktop. Now the data related to DIM product table sits inside my Power BI desktop. Okay, since the data is available, the product data is available as part of Power BI itself locally, right? It is super fast. Due to in-memory querying and being columnar database. Simple common sense. Let's say in your house you have 3 laptops. Okay, you are working in your laptop and your son's using another laptop. You want to access the data from your son's laptop using your LAN connection. It will take some time, isn't it? Instead, if you have the data file in your laptop itself, if you try to open it, it will be faster. The same analogies, the same thing is happening here. Okay, I imported the data from SQL Server into my Power BI desktop. Since the data is available locally in my Power BI desktop, it is super fast. It is not only because of the data is locally available, it is super fast, but also the import, right? Whenever you import the data, it will get cached in the memory. Before, right, it will get cached in the memory. Before it is getting cached in the memory, it does the compression. Okay, for example, now the question is, for example, this table, let us assume that the product table has 200 gigabyte data in it. If I import it from the SQL Server to my Power BI desktop locally, the entire data will get copied here locally. So we all think the 200 GB data from SQL Server, since we copied here locally using import mode, the file size or the table size in my local desktop is also 200 GB. This is not true. There is something called X velocity engine. That is the art of Power BI. Remember that. You have something called, let me just type it here. You have something called X velocity. X velocity. Previously it was called as a Vertipack, and now they renamed it as X velocity engine. This is the heart of Power BI. What this X velocity engine or Vertipack it does is, the moment when you import the data, it converts the data into columnar database format. So in our case, we have imported the DIM product table from the RDBMS source system SQL server. What this X velocity engine does is, it converts this tabular data into columnar database, and also it compresses the data and then it loads the data into memory. There are three things you need to keep in mind. The one is, the first step, what in the case of import, when you import the data from SQL server or from database, what happens here, right? Okay, let's take for example SQL server. In this case, in the case of import mode, the X velocity engine, what it does is, it converts the tabular data into columnar database. And step 2, what it does is, it compresses the data. It compresses the columnar data of the product table, and then it loads the data in memory. Anything which is available in memory, the performance will be faster. And also it compresses the data. It uses different compression technique. You have something called value encoding, run length encoding, and you have something else called hash encoding. I'm not going to discuss all these things now. It uses different techniques based on the type of the column, and then it compresses your transformed columnar data and then load the data into memory. For example, okay, as I told you, right, let's say this product table has 200 GB data in the SQL server system. When you import it, right, after compression, all the things, the X velocity engine, it converts this columns to database, and then it compresses the data. After compressing the data, this file size in your local desktop will be somewhat closer to, let's say, 5 GB or 2 GB only. The 200 GB got boiled down to 20 GB or 10 GB only. Okay, this is because of the compression done by my X velocity engine. This is the one you need to remember it. Okay, that's all. So with import mode, you can right, you can schedule, so in the case of import mode, you can use all DAX functions. DAX is one of the important topics in Power BI. Even experienced people, they got stuck up with the DAX functions. Even most of the experienced people, when they contacted me, they said they were having tough time in using the advanced DAX functions in Power BI. So in import mode, when you import the data, or when you load the data into Power BI using import mode, you can use all DAX functions. Okay, and Microsoft recommends the import mode wherever it is possible, because it compresses the data and then it loads the data in memory. Anything in memory, the performance will be faster. Instead of reading the data from your disk and then loading the data into memory and then responding to your query, it will take longer time. If everything is available in memory, it is pretty faster. So there is something called Apache Spark. Apache Spark gained popularity because of in-memory capacity. A lot of in-memory databases, applications are available. and import mode supports in memory. You just remember this. And also in import mode you can connect to any type of source system files. Supposing you want to connect to the web data or REST API, or you name any source system, it is possible to bring the data into your Power BI desktop using import mode. So next one is, okay, what are the advantages of using import mode? Okay, it offers the design flexibility to developers, and it supports Q&A and quick insights on the Power BI service. Power BI service is nothing but the cloud. So far we discussing about the desktop, Power BI desktop, which you downloaded and installed in your local system. We have something else called Power BI cloud service. Once you develop your report in your Power BI desktop, we have a button called publish here. When you click on this, the report will get published to your cloud. It will get deployed automatically on your cloud. So how do I connect to cloud? So you need to type app.powerbi.com. So in your mobile you need to install the Authenticator app, and in the Authenticator app using Play Store you install it, Microsoft Authenticator, and see in my mobile it is asking approve or not. So when I press approve, it is asking for sign in, my screen lock, and then only it is allowing me to connect to the Power BI service, which is nothing but the Power BI cloud service. So whatever the report you develop here, with this, when you click on this publish icon, the report will get published on your cloud. For example, here already I published many reports here. When I click on this workspace is in kind of a folder. Here you can see all these reports that I published in the past, right? You can see it there. So here we have something. That's what. So the advantage of the import mode is it offers design flexibility to modelers, the data modelers, and supports Q&A and quick insights, and also it leverages entire set of DAX related commands. And the disadvantages: import models needs to be refreshed. Okay, what do you mean by refresh here? Let's say you refresh the data. Let's say now you imported the data from SQL Server. After you imported the table, DIM product table from your SQL Server to your Power BI desktop locally, in the SQL Server on the source system, like somebody is inserting some data in it. Okay, somebody is inserting the data in it. Whatever the data they inserted after you imported the data, right, that data should also come, you need to bring in here. In order to keep your report up to date, you need to bring in the data, whatever they loaded after you imported the data into your Power BI desktop. So for that you need to schedule a refresh, data refresh. You can schedule up to 8 refreshes a day using the the Power BI desktop, and with the premium license, you can premium SKU, right? Premium SKU. You have something called SKU. I just type it here. You have a premium license SKU. Something, or a license type is called premium SKU. With that, you can configure more number of refreshes instead of 8. It's all money. If you pay, go for advanced licensing, the more number of refreshes are possible. Okay. All right. So, okay, let me just go ahead and see what. So your Power BI model cannot be more than 1 GB per data set. So this is about refresh. To keep your data up to date locally, you need to refresh your models frequently. right? So based on your need, right? So you need to refresh it. So we have something called incremental refresh, wherein you can schedule it. So every day, close of pay or end of the day, right? Every day, end of the day by 7 p.m. You take all the data and then push it to my local Power BI desktop. You can use the incremental data refresh. Apart from this, we have something else. Okay, and apart from this, there are some other limitations. Your Power BI model cannot be more than 1 GB per data set. Let's say you have 10 tables. I was talking about this dim product. We imported the dim product. Yes, behind the scene, the X velocity compresses this file, everything. After compressing that, if the file size exceeds more than 1 GB, I'm talking about the on disk size. It cannot go up to 1 gig size only. Okay, if that goes more than 1 gig, it will not work. Okay, so there is a limitation here. With the premium capacity, you can store more than 1 GB per data set. Okay, which means your on disk file can only go up to 1 GB in size. When you go to publish that to the service, that is going to be one of the restrictions from the import perspective. You need to be mindful of this. Okay, before you make any recommendation to your customer, you need to be mindful of this one. But with premium license, it supports close to 20 GB or so. Okay, 10 GB. It supports 10 GB or above. With premium licensing, you can per data set you can store 10 GB or above. Next, we will take a look at the direct mode. So now what I do is I just go to the Power BI desktop, click on the get data. I'm going to select SQL Server. This is another connection type, the Directquery. Here I just, okay, it is already there, and I just use, instead of using the default data connectivity mode import, I am going to select Directquery now. So in this connection type, the Directquery, the data will not be stored in my Power BI desktop, in my Power BI model, since it is a direct, as the name suggests, it is direct connection to my data source. What is my data source? SQL Server database. In this database, SQL Server, this database, it connects directly there. It will not download the data in simple term, or in the layman's term, it will not download the table. If you connect to Directquery mode, so now it connected to the sales database that is available under this SQL Server, and we can see all the tables that are available as part of the sales database. Now I want to import fact sales. Let's assume that this fact sales table has humongous amount of data in it. Okay, so in this case, what will happen is, it will show the data. You can, this is your preview data window. You can see the data here, and you can load it here. But when you load this table data here, since you connected in the Directquery mode, it will not import the data. It will not load the data into your Power BI desktop locally. Potential, click on OK. Yesterday I have shown you with the database. Okay, now the fact sales got imported, and if I go to the data view, and if I click on the dim product, you can see the data here, because we have used import, the default connectivity mode import, to connect to the SQL Server. Hence the data belong to dim product table got imported locally here in my local desktop. It is available. See, in the real-time scenario, the SQL Server will be in other system, in the other place, not in your laptop. Okay, don't get confused, right? You might be wondering, the SQL server there is in your laptop, even the Power BI desktop is there in your laptop. Why do you say you are importing it, all the things, right? In real time scenario, the SQL server will be on cloud. Okay, you'll have to give the, while importing, you'll have to give the server URL, okay, and then database name. You will be connecting it there from your local desktop. Okay, basically you are bringing the data from the cloud to your local desktop. So in this case, fact sales, look here, I have used the direct query mode to connect to the SQL server fact sales table. This table uses direct query and cannot be shown. The fact sales table data is not visible here. Why? Since we connected directly using direct query mode, it connected directly to the SQL server, hence the data was not downloaded here or imported here locally. Okay, so in this case, the Power BI will query the data from the data source every time. The Power BI will only store the metadata of the tables. The table is there here, but the data is not visible here because it did not download the data here. The next one is, when you expand this one, you can see all the columns that belong to fact sales table here. This is called metadata. Only the structure is there. The data is there on my SQL server. What are the advantages this direct query mode? You are not downloading the data here. For example, in real time scenario, you take the Walmart or Target, the volume of the fact tables are very, very high. It is there in terms of petabytes. 1 petabyte or 1.5 petabyte volume of data will be there. If you download the 1 petabyte, okay, the X velocity engine, it compresses and it loads the data in memory, everything is fine. But again, just because the volume of the data is very high, and just because X velocity engine compresses, if you try to import it, import itself will take longer time. On top, the compression, it has to use different compression techniques based on the type of the columns that you use it, and then it has to load the data into memory, right? It takes right, so it takes a lot of space in your disk and memory. When it comes to direct query, you are not importing the data, you are simply querying the data that is lying on your source system itself. What Power BI does is, it simply generates a query at the Power BI desktop side, and then it pushes the query back to your source system SQL database itself. See, in the direct query model, you need to specify the database name and you need to click on the table which you wanted to connect it. The direct query model, what it does is, it sends the queries. I want to write, select star from fact sales, something like that, right? So the query will be sent to the SQL server database itself. Instead of extracting or downloading the data, the 200 or 1 petabyte volume of data from a fact table to local, don't download it. Simply send the query to the source system as it is. Let that query run in this SQL server itself. The result of my SQL query only has to be sent back to my Power BI desktop. It's pretty simple, isn't it? Let's say you are writing a complex SQL query. Even if you write a complex SQL query by joining 10 tables, sending the query will not take much time. Hardly your query size will be 2 KB or 3 KB. Kilobyte, very small size, tiny size. Sending the query here, and then the query will get executed at the source system SQL server itself. The output of the query will be sent back to your Power BI desktop. In the case of huge volume of data, better you can go for direct query connectivity mode. The advantage here is, obviously, it requires less storage. In your Power BI desktop, you don't have to download the data, hence it doesn't require disk and memory space. Okay, and in the case of Directquery, it will only store the metadata of tables, the table names, column names, relationship also it stores here. That's what I said, Vani. If the volume of the data is Vani's question is in what scenario we will be using Directquery connectivity mode. If the volume of the data is very, very high, that's what I've been talking. Okay, if the volume of the data is very, very high, instead you can use Directquery model. So in this case, I just imported the table name. So the metadata got imported. The table name and the columns that belongs to that table only got imported. And if you do any kind of data transformation or something like that, right? So that transformation, what happens is in the Power BI desktop, there is something called M engine. The M engine generate the SQL query, and it will pushes the SQL query to our SQL source database, SQL server. The query will get executed here, and the result will be sent back here. It is a simple analogy is, for example, you are like a Swiggy. You receive the order and then you send your people to the hotels. The hotels respond, they are the ones supposed to cook all the dishes ordered, right? Swiggy has no headache. Simply they will send the queries, like people, they will send it. All the, let's 100 people, somebody ordered food for 100 people. Swiggy, doesn't have to sweat it. Simply they take the order, send the people, hey, you go and pick up the food. It is the responsibility of the restaurant to prepare the food for 100 people. Once the food is ready, they pack it and then they give it with the delivery people. The same analogy is happening here. So Power BI is kind of Swiggy, because the volume of the data is very high. They cannot cook it here, right? So if they cook it, what will happen? 100 people, food has to be prepared. In that case, if Swiggy has to prepare, what will happen? Same analogy. Maybe it is not the right example. Maybe it is very much relevant to this scenario. Simply you send the query there. Hey, you execute, you process everything there, because the data lies here itself. Instead of downloading here, you assume that 1 petabyte of data, if you download, what will happen? It take a lot of time, right? So better you send the query. Sending the query will not take too much of memory. It takes less memory only, right? And then you execute the query and get the output. That's it. That is what is happening. So in this case, the Power BI desktop requires less storage to store only the metadata. It requires less storage, but with Directquery you can perform only the limited transformations. For example, you want to merge the columns, you want to combine the columns, or you want to do some kind of group by, you want to do complex transformations. There are some limitations with Directquery connectivity mode. So to overcome that, better you can create a stored procedure on the source system itself, right? You can create some view or so to perform data aggregation in the source system view itself. You simply call the view, and right, so the data will be sent back to your source system. That's all, right? So in that, right, or you do all kind of concatenation or everything, data and everything, you do it as part of your view or stored procedure. Okay, because of the limitations when it comes to Directquery, you cannot do extensive data transformations like combining the data or right, so doing group by, all the things not possible. Anyhow, don't worry, we'll explain it everything in detail in the upcoming sessions. Don't worry, okay? And also, models don't require scheduled data refresh. Since the data is available at the source system itself, you don't have to schedule a data refresh. Unlike import mode, when it comes to Directquery, you don't have to schedule the data, because data lies here itself. Why to refresh the data? You don't have to do it anything, right? It doesn't require a scheduled data refresh. The disadvantage with Directquery is it has a limitations to only a specific DAX queries you can use it. Not all the DAX queries you can use it when you connect to Directquery mode. When you connect with Directquery mode. And also Power Query operations also has some limitations. There are two different things here, DAX queries and at the report, in the report canvas, I was talking about the visuals. different visuals, right? In the visuals, what we do is we'll use some measures or calculated columns. Measures we use DAX queries, okay? And Power Query operations, as I have shown you in yesterday's session. What did we do in Power Query? Power Query, I told you, Power Query is similar to your kitchen, right? That is where we do all kind of data transformation, cleaning, data blending or mashup. Everything we do it there in the Power Query editor, right? So in the Power Query editor also, right, you can do only some operations with direct query connectivity mode. So there are some limitations, okay? And the direct query is possible for few data sources only. This is another limitations. Now the question is SQL Server in Power BI desktop, right? Microsoft Power BI desktop supports SQL Server and RDBMS, like the other RDBMS like Oracle, and these are the data sets, right? You can connect it with direct query mode. For example, MySQL Server, you cannot use direct query mode to connect to MySQL Server. Even if you connect it, there is something called query folding that is not going to be enabled. Okay, so only limited or specific set of source systems you can connect it with direct query mode. If you wanted to see what are the data sources I can connect with the direct query mode, you can go to this link. Okay, connect data, and for example, if I just click on this, I'll just share it to you all in the chat window also. So you can find it everything. So these are the data sources. Look here, direct query, live connection, access database not possible, and so wherever you find yes. So these are the data sources are supported. Even Snowflake also, Snowflake also it supports Spark and SQL Server, Terra database and Oracle database. All these source systems you can connect it with the direct query mode. Okay, next we'll take a look at something else called the live mode. So what is a live mode? Live mode is also similar to your direct query mode. Okay, it is a direct connection to your source. Even in the case of live mode, the data will not get imported locally. The data will not be stored in your Power BI model. The live connection mode is supported only for these three sources. Direct query mode supports lot of data sources, whereas live mode supports only these three data sources: SQL Server Analysis Service, Table or Multidimensional, and Power BI Service. And what are the advantages of live mode? No size limitation. Like import mode, per file or per data set, you can store only up to 1 GB. Anything above 1 GB and above, you cannot store it. There are some limitations with the import mode. In the case of direct query mode and live mode, there are no limitation with the size, because the data lies in the SQL Server Analysis Services itself, or in the Power BI service the data is available. Hence, there is no limitation when it comes to data. So scalability is good, right? It provides high scalability, and also you can perform all kind of DAX transformations. Whereas in the case of direct query mode, you can use only a specific DAX functions to perform some kind of analytics. The disadvantages here, you cannot use Power Query. Power Query is like kitchen, right? You cannot do data transformation. You cannot combine data from multiple sources. Once you connect to the live mode, that's it. You cannot connect to any other sources. Okay, you have to live with only the live connection mode only. Now the question is, what is the difference between direct query and live connection? As I already discussed about the advantage and disadvantage, The direct query is a direct connection to data source. Even the live connection is also direct connection to analysis services. It's only for analysis. So that is the difference. Apart from this, with direct query, you can still model the relationship. For example, I have imported these two tables. If I go to the Power Pivot here, data model design, you can see it here. I imported fact sales a while ago and dim product. If you scroll on the right, look here, fact sales is available, got imported here, and dim product is also imported. When you see any tables in Power Pivot, so this is called your Power Pivot. This is where we do the data model design. When you see this blue line got highlighted on top of the table, that means this table got imported with direct connectivity mode. But this table also we imported from SQL Server. Both this table we imported from SQL Server, but this is, for this we use the direct query connectivity mode, whereas for this we have used import mode. Here we can do the data model design here in the case of direct query connectivity mode, whereas in the case of live mode you cannot do the data model design. You cannot do the data model design. You have no relationship tab at all. You will not see the relationship tab at all when you import that one. I will show you one example for this. This will not be visible in the case of live mode. Okay. So here I did not install SSIS table or multi-dimensional. Earlier I installed it. Now I need to reinstall it because I reinstalled the SQL Server. To help you to understand the live connection mode, what I will do is I will just click on the home ribbon. Okay, here itself we can see the get data, and you have something called Power BI data sets. Okay, I just click on this. Look here, the Power BI service live connection. The connect live option for this file is disabled because it is already contains data from another data source. You cannot explore live data and connect to another type of data source in the same file. Create a new file to explore live data. Look here, if I try to import Excel file, if I try to import JSON file, everything is possible. So you can have the hybrid. See here, this one import mode and this one is direct query mode. Even this one is an Excel file, or this is my CSV files. We have the combination of different types of files or tables, right? So for this is an Excel file, and these are SQL Server. It's a table, and this is my CSV file. This is my direct connected mode. These two are still SQL Server tables only. But along with this, is it possible to include live connection data? It is not possible. There is a limitation there. Okay. So what I will do is I just open another file, another workbook, new Power BI desktop, in order to demonstrate how to import the live, how to connect with live mode. So what are the sources it supported? SSAS table or SSAS multi-dimensional and Power BI service. Since I don't have these two now, with Power BI service I will show you how to do the live connection. I opened a new Power BI desktop. Now what I do is I just click on the get data icon. Here you find Power BI data sets. Create a live connection to data sets in Power BI service. The moment when you hover the cursor here, It displays that, right? The tooltip, kind of a tooltip. Create a live connection to datasets in the Power BI service. I just click on this. It will ask for the username and password to connect to my Power BI Cloud service. Since I already connected to Power BI Cloud service in the browser, it displays the previously published report here. This report, I want to create a connection with this one. Create it. Just give me a second. Somebody is... yeah, it got loaded, correct. So we can see the fields here, right? So it loaded all the files from this one. Look here, in this case, I already published this one a while back, right? I just clicked the publish button. This report got published on the cloud, and the same file which I published on cloud, I just connected using Power BI datasets. When I clicked on this, it was asking for the file which I already published there. I selected that file name. That's it. All the data, the metadata got imported here. Look here on the left side, you can see only two icons. The first one is the report canvas. The second one is your, one second, this is your model here. It shows the model, data model. Okay. That's all. But you don't see the data view here. You don't have the data view icon here, right? If you want to see the data, you cannot see it here. You cannot see the data here. But you can create some bar chart or table or, for example, matrix visual. You can drag and drop the columns. You can see the data here. But you don't have that icon here to view the entire data belong to each table here. It is not visible here in live connection mode. This is one of the examples for the live connection mode. With live connection, you have the relationship tab here. In the older version, even this tab was not enabled. Okay. So the live query is a direct connection to my Power BI service now. The data, everything is available for this on my Power BI cloud. Where? In my Power BI cloud. Look here, not here. Look here, it's all available on my Power BI cloud. So this is where it is available now. Look here, this is the one. And also the data file, you can see it like this. Whenever you publish any report from your Power BI desktop to Power BI service, the report as well as the data will get published together. We don't have to explicitly publish these two things, right? So the data, you don't have to do it explicitly. So it takes care automatically. It publishes the report along with the data also. Okay. One second, let me just go here and let us do one thing here. When I right click on it, look here, you cannot do anything here. When I double click on it, see, first of all, the manage relationship got disabled here. Okay, there is no option to create any form of relationship between the tables. You cannot drop it, you cannot do anything. So this is kind of right. It makes sense because a business intelligence developer would be the person who is responsible for creating the relationship amongst the tables or between the tables. These are called relationship. The link, whatever you see here, the star, one, there is a line here. This is one-to-many relationship. There exists a one-to-many relationship between students and student course. And you have another table called course. There is a one-to-many relationship exists between the students and student course. You can see the data model design here, but you cannot create and you cannot modify or you cannot delete the relationship, or you cannot create, delete, modify the relationship, or not possible. One way it is good, right? You have a centralized control. let's say I am in a project development project, only one person has to create the relationship. If everybody is allowed to create the relationship, what will happen? So you'll create a link between course ID to course ID, and let's say, unfortunately I have course ID and course key is there. Instead of course ID and course ID, if somebody links mistakenly course ID with course key, then your report will not show the accurate data. It cannot do the filtering. Single point of control. Only one person has to create the data model, and once he creates it, he can share it with other people. They can view, okay, what kind of relationship exists between the tables. Good. So there is a many-to-many relationship. Good. So in that case, I need to filter this table with this table and this table with this table. Already they enable cross filtering direction both. Okay, I should be able to use my student table to filter the course table. So I can understand the relationship. I can see all the things here, but I cannot do any changes. One way it is good. And also the Power Query. Now I just go here. Look here, the transform data. When I click on this, the Power Query option is not available. You cannot do any data transformation. You cannot make any changes to the data model. Simply you create report with this one, that's all. When you create the report, what will happen is it will directly connect to your Power BI cloud service, and then it will get the data from there, and then it will display the reports. You can create reports by connecting directly to your Power BI cloud service. Hope with this you understood, you got the flavor, you got an understanding of how the live connection works, what are the limitations with live connection. Now you understood. Okay. Fine. Okay, the next one is we have something else called composite mode. We have something else called composite mode. In the composite mode, you can bring in data via both Directquery and import. Right? So Directquery and import. You can use these two connectivity. Okay, you can connectivity mode to bring in the data. So with the composite models, you can import Excel file and the flat files, JSON files. These are just it requires the import connectivity mode. It doesn't have any direct connectivity mode. Okay, because you are not going to fire any query against these files, isn't it? So also you can connect to the cloud applications and social media. Also you can connect it. And the composite model is nothing but the combination of different data sources. But you cannot combine the live connection mode with these sources. The live connection mode requires only a single source. You cannot connect to, for example, here I think 1 second, let me just I just go here. Look here. When I try to import any other file other than the Power BI, it is all disabled. I cannot import Excel file. I cannot import the table from SQL Server when you connected in the live connection mode. Hope you understood the difference between all these four, right? So the import mode, but the composite mode, except the live connection mode, right? You can connect to the Excel file, and you can connect. There is something called data flow. You can bring in the data from your data flow, and you can right. So you import the data from this, and then with Directquery, import and Directquery, you can combine these two things. As I have shown you in this one, the previous one. Look here. Here these three are from SQL Server, and these are from my Excel file or .csv file, comma separated value files. So import is the default mode, and if the volume of the data is very high, for example, most of the people, to my knowledge, right, the students, those joined with the companies now, I could hear from them, they are all using the SQL Server database. Even in the case of SQL Server database, let's say the region dimension table, date dimension table, it will not have huge volume of data, right? It has less number of data. You can use import mode to import the data into your Power BI desktop, and then you can create the relationship, and then you can create the reports. Okay, let's see, you connect to SQL Server. You are using all the data are available in the form of tables in your SQL Server, but my fact sales volume of data is very high. It has, let's 5 terabytes or 10 terabytes volume of data in it. I don't want to use import mode. If I use importing the data itself will take longer time, and then every now and then you need to refresh this data. That is another overkill. Instead, I will connect the fact sales table using direct connectivity mode. Let the data be there. Let the data live there itself. I'll simply send the query to the source system SQL Server. Let the query exist on the place where the data exists. Once the query executes successfully, and the result will be sent to my Power BI desktop automatically. But the customer table, let's say in your case the customer, in the case of bank, the dimension customer table will have huge number of customers. 25 million customers will be there. And the product table, Amazon or Walmart, Target, they have close to 1 billion products are there. But if you are running a mid-sized company, the number of, if your customer base is less than 2 million or 3 million, then you can go for import mode. In the case of huge volume of data, go for direct connectivity mode. The composite mode is the combination of, look here, this is what the composite mode. So here I have Excel files, CSV files. Along with this, I've used SQL Server tables. Even these two SQL Server tables, I imported it, and this is, this I did not import it. I connected with Directquery connectivity mode. The import and direct connectivity mode, and also other data files called your composite mode. So in order to access the data from cloud, let's say you publish the report on cloud. That signifies, see, there is a question from Shreyas, what does this blue line signifies? That's what I told, right? This one signifies that this table we connected with direct query connectivity mode. Got it, Shreyas? This we connected. Look here, if you hover the cursor here on the right side, you can see, right, the fact sales, name fact sales, and storage mode is direct query, data source type SQL Server database, and server database names, everything it shows on the right side when you hover the cursor. So it's a direct query. And similarly, when you hover the cursor here, so the customer import mode, and the data, look here, the import mode requires data refresh. 4/17/4, 8:34 p.m. I imported this data. What if the new customers got loaded in this customer table in my source system SQL Server after 8:34? Listen, after 8:34, 100 customers data went into this table. So you need to refresh it. You need to schedule the data refresh. Okay, that's a different topic. We'll discuss what is incremental refresh, everything later point in time. But when you use the import mode to connect to the source system and import the data locally, you need to make sure that your data is up to date. For that, you need to schedule the data, you need to refresh the data from your SQL Server to your local system to make it up to date. But direct connectivity, you don't need any refresh. You are directly connected to the source system database. So hope you understood the advantages and disadvantages of using different storage types, import mode, when to use. If the volume of the data is not so high, then you can go for import mode. And if the volume of the data is very, very high, then you can go for direct connectivity mode. And the next one, live connection mode, is a different storage mode altogether. It supports only the SSAS, tabular SSAS, multidimensional, and Power BI service. That's it. The composite mode is a hybrid of import and direct query. That's it.